welcome to another edition of Ball and Chain. This one's going to be on crypto. As you know, we're trying to split it out between football and crypto, and at the weekend we tend to do a summary of what's gone off over the last week or two and the context of crypto and the wider markets, and also what's going on at the moment in the US, because that seems to be having a massive impact on the crypto market. So I have put in the description about, the roulette wheel and gambling and where we are with the fear, uncertainty and doubt, the FUD that's knocking about. So the question that I'm going to pose, and I'm sure it's on everybody's mind, is the crypto market dead? Are we heading into another brutal crypto winter? Everyone seems to be panicking, selling off, saying I told you so. But what if I told you that while everyone's hitting red, there might be a massive play on black just around the corner? Or maybe we're still deep in the bear's claws. Today, we're placing our bets on crypto in Q4, and I'm laying out exactly why you need to understand these market signals at the moment. Okay, we'll go into the charts and we'll look through stuff. But I get it. Look, seeing your portfolio bleed, it's not fun, is it? Mine's the same as yours. It's not great. Bitcoin's dipped below 100k, right down under 95, and we got a close for the first time in such a long time, or we will get a close, I've got no doubt, under 100k, which is scary. People are starting to say that the bull market's done. We're in a bear market. However, and the sentiment out there is overwhelmingly bearish everywhere, and many are predicting more pain, more downward spirals, and frankly, they've got some really valid points. So what exactly is driving the current market fear? Let's break down the macro factors at the moment that are impacting it, and let's look at the bearish arguments at the moment, and let's see if we can draw some conclusions from them. So macroeconomic factors are really weighing heavy. We had the government shutdown, the longest US shutdown for, I'm just going to check my facts, 43 days. 43 days the government was shut down. And as a result of that, we've now got inflation, we've now got interest rates, and we've got recession fears that are really hitting the markets. We've got regulatory headwinds, potential new regulations and government crackdowns, both positive and negative. We've got project failures and scams. We've had more examples of people being wiped out through leverage, and really had so many liquidations over October and November that people are quite frankly scared now to invest or really gamble with any form of leverage, even in the spot market, let alone futures. It's really causing concern, isn't it? I think we've got to discuss the large institutional selling and lack of retail buying. Now, retail is normally propped up, and being the market, let's face it, but in this cycle, it is different. Institutions now, because of ETFs, are buying at scale. We've got Bitcoin and Ethereum treasury companies that have started to establish. They're buying, but now they've seen the impact and the volatility affecting crypto. That's led them to drop and dip. We've also got quite animated charts, up, down, and we've seen the charts be really bearish and pointing a bearish pattern, and that really is causing a lot of the concern for particularly retail, but even institutions now who are wanting to preserve capital and preserve profits as we turn over into a new calendar year. So it really is impacting everything we do. But look, let's have a look at the bullish counter arguments now, and then we'll dip into all the details. But I just wanted to highlight, the two cases that we're talking about. So let's go the black bet. Rather than betting on red, let's now bet on black. So the bullish counter arguments are an opportunities that we're having groundbreaking projects and highlighting new technical advancements that are happening now. So you look around the thing, has the fundamentals of crypto changed? Are we getting things like Hyperliquid, Sue, really good projects that are coming through and really driving crypto into new directions? you know, you've got Asta, you've got other perpetuals markets, other dexters that are coming out, but also these gambling sort of tools that are allowing you to do different things with crypto that we've never seen. We've got now more meme projects coming out. You've got the meme stuff early in the year, so none of that's gone away. All the original stuff's still there, like Decentraland, Sand, all that sort of narrative is still there. The AI narrative is still there. The real world assets, RWAs, are still there. Layer 1s are still there. Ethereum's still upgrading, doing new things. You know, DeFi is still there, going strong. Nothing's really changed fundamentally. It's just the macro impact. There's been no real black swan event. We've had no massive FTX or Luna collapse at the moment. So when you see the fundamentals haven't really changed with crypto, we've had no real impact, we've had no retail, well, that does say something, that the macro headwinds have really caused a problem this cycle. And therefore, the government shutdown for 43 days means that nothing's been processed. Essentially, America has ground to a halt. That has to have an impact on crypto. Now, you can see adoption. We've gone from retail largely driving crypto to now it being largely institution. It's a good thing and a bad thing. But we always wanted institutions because that would push for more regulatory confirmation. And with the most bullish crypto president ever, and pro-crypto president, I should say, regardless of what we think about President Trump, he is pro-crypto. And he's done very well out of it, apparently. But he is pro-crypto. And therefore, that is another thing. We've had the recent halving cycle, and we're still, you know, the impact of halving is usually the year after halving. So this year, Q4 is usually bullish. It's not the end of Q4 yet. It's only November. We've seen the market pump the end of November. We've seen it pump in December. We've even seen it pump in January. So it's not over yet. Bear markets are cyclical and often precede massive bull runs. There is always a big shock, flush out, and then another run up. I personally think we've got another run up coming. I think it's just a case of holding firm and holding tight. That's just my view. I don't think anything's fundamentally changed on crypto, and therefore my view is that I'm betting on black. I actually think that it's worth holding your bags for a little bit longer and not panic selling yet. I've round tripped though before, so I'm probably not the best person to be giving this advice, and definitely it is not financial advice. I don't come with any financial credentials at all. I'm just giving you my view from what I'm seeing on the cycles, what I'm seeing in the data, the macro, and also all the fundamental analysis and sentiment analysis that we do on this channel in order to position you to make the best possible decisions. But again, it's for education and entertainment purposes only, this channel. So, bearish. How do we protect assets, identify strong projects, and prepare for the eventual rebound? So again, using the usual strategies that we say, DCAing, using dollar cost averaging. I dollar cost average to Bitcoin. I'll do that for as long as I can until my mortgage is paid off, basically. And I will continue to do that. The price of Bitcoin doesn't interest me at all. I'll say what a lot of people saying, I can never have enough Bitcoin. So I'm going to continue to invest in Bitcoin no matter what the price is. Everything else I'm a lot more cautious of. And what I've learned this cycle is research and having a very, very small portfolio of no more than 5 coins. One of those has got to be Bitcoin. Probably the second is Ethereum, third is Sol, and 2 selective projects is probably the smartest way to do it. I have got far more than that. I need to grind down, and I've not done that. I've been waiting to at least break even, if not profit. And if I put all my money into Bitcoin, I would be so much better off. But that's the learning. That's what we do this for. Thankfully, a large portion of my portfolio is in Bitcoin, and therefore overall I'm not in a bad position. So bullish, let's jump into the charts and let's have a look at all this. But tell me, before we start doing a bit more detailed deep dive, what do you think? Where do you think we're at? Do you think it's red and a bear market, or are you betting on black? Is it a bull market still, and we're just seeing that last shakedown, that last flush out before we do move lower? We have had quite considerable moves lower, so I can definitely understand the case for bears. We've got to see. Maybe Bitcoin is bearish. Maybe we're not going to see Bitcoin crack that 125, 130 to push into all-time highs. Maybe we're not going to see that. It could be a reality. At the moment, Bitcoin under 100k, I think it's a pretty good buy and good value now. You know, with the institutional buy-ins, if we get the 401ks pumping into Bitcoin, we're going to see that rally. We'll see that go up, you know, top in. I'm certainly not saying now. I'm certainly not saying next year. But between now and the next cycle, I can see Bitcoin topping at 200k easily, maybe even more. And when I say 200k, I mean dollars, and see that topping. So that's why I continue to invest. That's why I continue to look at Bitcoin. It has been historically one of the strongest performing assets over the last 10 years. And I'm not going to go against that data myself personally. Okay, if you like what you've seen so far, please like, subscribe, click that bell so you can learn more, and please share with your family and friends. I really want to try and grow this channel. My first one sounds really bad, but you've got to start somewhere. I'm looking for 10 subscribers. I'm currently stuck on 7. Just need another 3 to get me up to 10. Then we can start to be better, more ambitious. But let's break double figures. Let's try and break 10 views of this video. So if you can help me do that, I would massively appreciate it. All right, let's kick on and start looking at some of the information that we normally share on this channel. I've broken away just to give you a quick summary of where things are at and talk through that. But let's try and go in and have a look at what's happening. So I did mention and allude earlier that the government shutdown, yes, it's over. Some positive news finally. How good is that to see some positive news on screen? So, is the government shutdown over? Yes, it is. The BBC have confirmed it. That's it. It must be true. I must also say about the BBC and Donald Trump are not getting on at the moment. And apparently Donald Trump is going to sue the BBC for $1 billion or pounds. Irrespective, it's a crazy amount of money. We'll see what happens there. Again, so much awkward news around at the moment between the US and political other countries that are causing, you know, political nightmares and concern, and that's worries, isn't it? That's worry. So yeah, 43 days of shutdown, the longest shutdown ever, but it's now passed. It's passed Senate, and it's approved, and Donald Trump signed the declaration saying it's a great day. Excellent. But it's going to take a few days, weeks, months even for the government to fully reopen. This bit here, it's really, really important. Why am I saying that? Well, it's really important because just getting it signed and the government reopening does not instantly mean everything's gonna be back to normal. Therefore, bear that in mind. It coincides, doesn't it, with a difficult period for cryptocurrency, because this is such a challenging macro story. Like, it really is. Like, this is unprecedented. So take this into account when you're thinking about the red or the black case here, because that is unprecedented and it's caused a lot of disruption in US, and people are rightly so cautious as a result of that. Okay, so next, Thanksgiving is coming. That's typically quite bullish, but we're seeing airlines recover and disrupt. So hopefully that all comes back to normal and we see things happening there for this. And that's going to be interesting. So keep an eye on this story. I've been covering it because I think it is so apparent for crypto, and it's so important and it's so impactful to crypto. We just need to keep an eye on this. Okay, so that is the US government shutdown. It's finally come to an end. I can finally stop talking about it. I'm looking forward to when things come. Next, we're going to focus on the cryptocurrency side. Okay, let's now dive into CoinGecko and have a look what's been happening over the last 7 days in the market, including market cap, trading volume, and the top 100 cryptos. Picking out specific ones that we want to draw particular attention to, as we normally do. So we'll start with CoinGecko, then we'll check the bubbles and just have a look at, because it's a really good visual. In fact, we'll break the norm and let's have a look at bubbles first, because I think that will zoom out, show us what's been happening over the last 7 days and last month, and then we'll move into a bit more detail on CoinGecko. We'll check fear and greed and check where we are, even though we already know, probably can guess, and then we'll start looking at alt season and such. So let's go to coin bubbles at the moment and look where we are over the last week. And I think the picture, I don't think it's any surprise, is it, to see a lot red, with the exception of a small minority like Uniswap, World Limit Finance, Tel and Stark Network, which seem to have performed really well in the face of adversity. And I think this just goes to show that even though we are very bearish at the moment, it's looking bearish. There is definitely some projects, if you get into the right ones, that you can make profit on and make money on. It's just being at the right place at the right time, or being connected in the right levels, and that's why the alt market is so challenging, and why I personally am going to start to look to move away from there and focus more on Bitcoin and consolidating into Bitcoin. However, if you look at Bitcoin, that's down 7.9%. And it's pretty on par. You know, the altcoin market has not really performed that badly, apart from a set few. In comparison, it's pretty much leveled, which is unprecedented, isn't it? Because normally it's amplified massively, and the ripple effect of BTC going down often radically affects altcoins as well. But you can see that not all of them are as impacted as they used to be. Is this a shift in the market? Are things changing, and altcoins even becoming more like Bitcoin, where yes, they all bleed, but the hemorrhaging isn't as much as it used to be? I don't know. Well, that's the tale of the last week. It doesn't necessarily correlate to the month, but look at the month. Bitcoin down 10% over the last month, but certain coins absolutely doing well. Look, Zcash, we said. XMR, the privacy coins doing really well. Uniswap's had a good rally of 23%. So Trump's gone up 24%. World Liberty Finance up 14%. Dash up 131. DCR 120. So there are projects out there, even in this quite turbulent time, that are performing really, really well. And in the last day, well, to be honest, I used to get quite excited by weekend pumps. But now it's largely institutional investors. If we do get a radical change over the weekend, and we pump quite a lot, that can be quite bad, because it opens up a CME gap, and typically we've seen those CME gaps get closed. So I'm all right with it being level this weekend. And then going into next week, my hope is that we will start, as we start to move towards Thanksgiving, once the government starts to reopen up in America, we might see some positive signs on the market potentially, unless we get that confirmation by a couple of weekly closes to the negative that we are actually in a bear market, and then decisions need to be made on your portfolio, as I will need to make decisions on mine. So that's the sort of high level visual of how the markets are performing. So let's just go and have a look at how that translates into a more microscopic view of the markets by the top 100. So market cap, we can see, no surprise, down massively, nearly 1% down, but that's in the last 24 hours. But if you look at the chop, it has been quite choppy, but we are definitely on a downward spiral, but that's not to be surprised over the course of this weekend. Trading volumes down, again, 24 hours, no surprise, is it? We get the most movement during the week, and the most volatility during the week. The weekend tends to be a lot less, because there's no institutional transactions taking place. It is mainly retail, if any, that are buying. Let's have a look at Bitcoin then. The last 24 hours, the last week's been terrible, hasn't it? 8% down. We're now dropped below 100. We're now teetering at 95. The next scale is 92 and 90k that we need to look at. We said we didn't want to drop below 104. We have done. We said we wanted to stay above 98. We haven't done. We said we want to stay above 95. We really have to. I think we've got to stay above 90k. Otherwise, we risk going down as low as 72k, with people predicting, and a lot of analysts predicting, that that's the next leg down if we were to lose the 90k down to about 80 to 72k. And if that happens, a lot of people are predicting a bear market bottom for 2026 of around 35k for a Bitcoin. I don't know about you, but that is an absolute bargain price for Bitcoin, and I will certainly be loading up as much as I can when it gets to that low level, because I think the returns over the next 3 to 4 years on that are going to be insane. Let's see, it will be the 17k versus 125k of this cycle, in my view. So you'll get a 34k, and I think I'll be looking for at least 250k Bitcoin at the peak of the next cycle. Is lovely, and that's been quite pessimistic, really. So that's what we're looking for. That's what we're hoping for if we're trading cycles. If you're trading, my hope is to hold Bitcoin for as long as I can, as a hedge against inflation and against other factors. And the fact of the portability about Bitcoin is what I find it so fascinating and interesting. Okay, going up to Ethereum, again struggling, nearly down 10%. What's happening with Ethereum? Well, we need to hold 3k, but I said that about 4. So are we gonna get all-time highs again? Are we gonna shatter 5k? We came so close. We beat the last all-time high, but by very little for Ethereum. It has been the most disappointing, I think, alt season, if we can even call it that, ever. If we do not go up further and we are indeed in a bear market, let's see. XRP doesn't seem to be held up that badly, 3% down. A lot of people are longing on XRP and saying that it's looking, that it's very bullish. So we'll see about that. 221, it's still up. You know, it's had a good run, hasn't it, since the SEC. Since the SEC dropped the case against them, it skyrocketed up. So, you know, I got in XRP. I've not got a lot, but I've got enough to say I'm in profit and done pretty well out of that. So, no, it was a good trade. It's worked out pretty well. A lot of people are predicting it could get as much as $5 this cycle. There are some loons who are saying $10,000, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's never going there. I think it'll be lucky if it breaks $3 to $5, and if you get $5 for an XRP token, I think you've done very, very well. BNB was the market leader really and made such big gains. Talk about manipulation and everything, don't know for certain, but there's definitely a lot of talk about manipulation happening in the crypto market. BNB certainly been no stranger to that. Sol's hemorrhaged quite a lot, hasn't it? From the 250 days, it's gone down to 139. Needs to stay above $100, doesn't it? Otherwise, we're going back down maybe to that $10 mark. And if it does again, I am going to load up on Solana again. Once it drops up. Solana, ETH and Bitcoin. I think Ethereum under a K, Solana under 100 starts to look pretty good. Solana under 50 looks even better. That's what I'm looking at. And Bitcoin, yeah, under 100k, I think it's cheap. So they're the sort of buy signals for me to start looking at accumulating again. I haven't sold it. We'll see what happens. Again, I'm hedging my bets that we're going to have one less leg up. But we will see. Tron's doing well, up 1% over the last week, which is amazing when everything else is down. So you got to say that's if you look at the amplification, everything being like 10% down, that's 11% up, really, isn't it? And maybe even one could say it's even amplified further. Cardano doing absolutely terrible, 49 cents. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Zcash has done very well this latter part of the market, or this at this point in whatever we're in. It's at 14% up, and Zcash has definitely been a winner this time round. Hyperliquid is down, but again, Hyper's been one of the big winners of this market. $38, still progressing well. Chainlink, I think it's a bargain at 14. When a real world asset's going to come in, the Oracle Chainlink is definitely. I think there's a conference coming up later this month. I'm expecting that price to pump and to see some positive action. But $14 for Link, it was $22 a while ago. It's still looking very appealing, unless we're in a bear market and we're going to drop down to see massive losses on that one. But Chainlink is another one that I think I'll keep an eye on, as will Sui and Ondo, some players that I might continue to invest in during my portfolio. Monero's done well, but it's dropped off a little bit recently. Avalanche is struggling, so is HBAR at the moment. Sui is struggling, nearly 20% down to 170. That's really struggling at the moment. Uniswap's done very well, up 13%. A lot of people were saying that would perform well, and just seems to have done well since it announced this token burning philosophy. So they're burning tokens now, which is increasing the price limit and suppressing the supply, and that's why Uni's done so well. And clearly, once the price starts to go up, people start to ape in and realise that it might be a good investment. DOT continues to disappoint and underperform. Scroll down. World Limited Finance has had a big boom, up 18% in the last week. Is that potentially one to watch? Has been on the hunt for some seriously good returns. It really needs to, but it's massively down from its all-time highs. But that does seem to be performing well. So is World Limited Finance one to watch? Let's just have a look and deep dive into that a little bit more. So if you would have invested 3 months ago, you would be at a huge loss. So its entry price was around 40 cents. So obviously getting it now at 14.15 is an absolute bargain. It's 50% down from its original. I think its original listing price was around that. When it first came on, it was around 30. It went down to about 20 cents, and now it's really dipped below there. The last 7 days, however, has seen a big spike come up from the 10th, and we've seen it chop a little bit Are we going to see that comeback? Are we going to see World Limited Finance being one of the next plays that's really going to rock it up and going to produce some serious gains? Who knows? Be nice if it did. I did invest quite a bit at 23 cents, I think it was, and bought down. So we'll see if that goes up. I think it's one of those where if I start to make break even or make some profit on that, I might look to cash out, because it's this market's just brutal, isn't it? So what else has performed well, or performed particularly by internet computer, down nearly 30% in the last week. Aave down 15%. That was performing really well earlier with the other DeFi protocols, but seems to be struggling. I think it coincides a lot with Ethereum's performance as well. It's still a great platform. The fundamentals haven't changed, so be interesting to see what happens there. Asta up 12% again. It's one of those plays that's been heavily backed in Asia. Could that continue as well? Pepe down 20%, Athena down 17%, Pi Network up 1.5%, Hash, Province blockchain provider up 10%. That seems to be performing pretty well at the moment. Filecoin down 30%. It did have a massive pump, didn't it? But it's dropped back down and lost most of those gains that it had. But interesting to see what happens with that. It's been a very interesting market for Filecoin, but it's nowhere near its previous all-time highs, and it's not anywhere near touching that. So it's interesting to see what happens with Filecoin as we progress through whatever we're in the cycle, whether it's bullish or bearish. We will actually see. I'm just going to scroll down a few of you, let you have a look at them as much as I am, and then what I'll do is I'll zoom out. So that's the top 100. Mainly red, few outliers there. Let's have a look at some of the patterns that we can see as we scroll up and down these markets. We can see that it's largely been bearish, a lot of them in a downward period. But if you look, a lot of them are consolidating recently. We've seen a bit of consolidation happen, and could that be the consolidation before the rise? It'll be really interesting. I think next week's going to be such a big week, and the next 2 weeks really are. I think if we're not seeing any movement really to the upside over the next couple of weeks into December, I think it's well done, guys. It's been a nice market. It's been fun, but let's batten down the hatches. Either clear your portfolios out or just prepare for some massive losses over the next 12 months and start to accumulate where you want to accumulate, but you won't be selling at a profit. And if you are selling, you're definitely selling at a loss. So let's just keep that in mind. How's fear and greed index? Well, it's looking absolutely horrendous. We are in deep, extreme fear. We've been in fear now for a few days. Dropped down to the lowest point I've seen in such a long time, down to 10. This is looking very bearish. But again, every bull market has a clear out. Is this the final bit of extreme fear before we flip to extreme greed? We've not really seen huge amounts or that last bit of extreme greed in the final part, blow off top of the cycle. Still feel like it's going to come. Everybody's saying it's not. That's usually the time when it does. Let's just see. But we're in extreme fear at the moment, which means a lot of caution. A lot of people say when it's red on the scale, time to buy, and when it's green, time to sell. And a lot of people just work off that principle and just sell when it's green and buy when it's red. That's the case. Now's the time to accumulate and buy. So altcoin season, is it altcoin season? Well, no, it's not. I think that's pretty obvious. Well, we're hit in the middle, really. We definitely moved up in the last few days since that happened. So it was largely very Bitcoin centric, but we're seeing a lot of alts performing quite well against Bitcoin, which is tipping the scales to 45. So that's where we are. We've ran through everything holistically now. We've gone through the just general market sentiment, black or red, going back to that roulette side theme. We've talked about the last 7 days and performance and where things are at. So what are we going to see? It's going to be very interesting, isn't it? And we've also talked about the US government back opening up just in time for Thanksgiving. So a couple of weeks before that, or a week or so just before Thanksgiving. So let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks. As I say, I'm mid. I'm definitely not bearish yet. I'm not giving up. I still think there's opportunities. Q4's a long quarter. We're only just about halfway there. So we've got another half to go. We've had a really challenging, we had a great start to Q4, didn't we? That first week in October was absolutely brilliant. Really shot the prices up, and then we've seen it drop and just loads of liquidations and loads of challenges. And now we're seeing just continual red. So what's going to happen in the next few weeks? What do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think we're going to see a final blow off top and everybody's bags pump in time for Christmas? Or do you think the bear market is upon us and we're going to see a continual drop in prices? What do you think about the US government shutdown? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with my analysis and my thinking in that with the US government now reopening, macro conditions looking a little bit more certain? It'll be interesting to see what happens at the Fed's next meeting, whether they are going to drop and what data comes out. Are we going to see some more drops and that pump market? So a lot to consider, a lot to think about, a lot going on. Try and get out, try and touch grass, and let's see what happens. Okay, that's it for now. I'll see you at the next video. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.